we're coming back to you right now with two incredible people. Liz, I forgot to ask how you pronounce your surname, Liz. So I've got 50-50. I'll say Clover and Hattie Roche, co-MDs of This Is Home. This Home is a globally award-winning employee engagement and employee experience internal comms agency. They exist to help improve the experience for everyone and strive to help employees bring their best selves to work. I've known Hattie for many years, and they were a big support when I talked about our rebrand and merger of the Employee Engagement Awards and Employee Engagement Alliance into Inspiring Workplaces about a year ago now, before our last gala dinner before lockdown. They then helped us with Workapalooza, which was another event to launch Inspiring Workplaces, where we had concerts and different speakers. And since then, they invited us to be part of a global employee experience report called Roundel, which we jumped at the chance to help get insight from organizations around the world. And today, they are going to share insights from that report before, as I say, we publish it tomorrow and put it all over our social media and through our channels and databases. So without further ado, I'm going to bring them in and let's see if this all works. Hello, Hattie. Hello, Liz. Did I get it right?
Clover.
Clover.
Not so bad.
50-50.
Yeah, okay. So welcome. Hello. How are you both?
Yeah, good, Matt. Odd to be doing this from home and jealous to see that Liz is in the office.
Yeah. Well, this is my office right now. I'm just going to bring up those slides. Who might present it, we might want to go into full screen mode. You might not be able to see yourself then, but the slides will look much better, I think, and any comments I can pass along at the end. So, as I say, it's an honour for us to be involved in all your hard work. I won't mince words, and I think we'll leave you to share the insights that you've garnered from the world of work.
Thanks so much, Matt.
Thank you.
Liz, are we full screen?
Yeah, I'm sharing. Can you see?
No, we can actually just see your normal view.
Okay, two tick.
Oh, Matt, I think you might be on mute.
I'm just saying this is live TV, so you know this is what happens.
Can you see now?
Add to stream. There we go.
Yes. Okay, perfect.
Great things are worth waiting for. I'm going to leave you to it.
Amazing. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. So, as Matt said, this is our second year of Roundel, and honestly, what a year to look into employee experience. As you can imagine, it's been literally fascinating. So we're going to be pretty speedy over the next 20 minutes. We've got lots to share. So apologies if there's loads of points and loads of messaging. As Matt said, we do launch tomorrow, so please do download, and obviously there'll be much more detail in the actual report. So 2020, I mean, where do you even start with it? I don't think we could have predicted the events. And I think if we did, then nobody probably would have believed us. And I mean, if you look at some of the images, obviously many of you will recognize lots of these events, but we did see last year wave upon wave of seismic change, whether that be working from home, Black Lives Matter, political unrest, Zoom fatigue. We've all been working in our PJs. I'm still wearing comfortable trousers right now, homeschooling. The list literally goes on and on and on. I think the one good thing that 2020 did offer us is an opportunity, I suppose, to hold up a completely unflinching mirror to both organizations and then to all of us as well as individuals. So 2020 was a lot. That is probably the understatement of the century. It totally goes without saying. But we also think this is a watershed moment for our profession. And we can all be pretty proud, I think. I think we can say that we rose to the challenge. You know, we've grappled as a profession and as an industry with some really big questions, you know, from how do you engage a remote workforce for many businesses for the first time? How do we support line managers when none of us know the answers to any of those questions? And I guess above all, what have these changes meant for our organizations and for our people? So we're not going to go back to normal. We know that. And God forbid that anyone uses the phrase new normal again. We obviously don't want that. But we do want to take the opportunity to go forward better. And we think that there's actually a really big, clear choice ahead. We have an opportunity now to revolutionize work. And this does feel like a once in a lifetime thing, a once in a lifetime opportunity to truly transform the world of work. And hopefully this will be, I guess, the era of employee experience.
So who did we speak to? We heard from 634 professionals from employee engagement, employee experience, internal communications, in large organisations, small organisations from all around the world. And we're really excited to share with you the big themes that we found in the year when everything changed. So the first theme, obviously, is flexibility. We found that on average, 60% of employees are now working remotely. And incredibly, we're offering more flexibility when, where, how work gets done. And it's, clear to say that we didn't have much of a choice. We really have been living at work. And when we think about the context of living at work in a global pandemic, there's some amazing news, and this is absolutely incredible. What we found is many organisations saw that remote working actually had a positive impact on the 6 key performance indicators we looked at. So productivity, collaboration, innovation, empowerment, engagement, and culture. The question we're really left with now is why? Why people are feeling so much more empowered, and where do we go from here?
So this is obviously a pretty big one. 8 out of 10 organizations are saying that increased flexibility, and like Liz said, we've increased flexibility without much of a choice. But 8 out of 10 orgs are saying that increased flexibility hasn't hurt their business. And that's to say that they saw either no impact or a positive impact across these 6 KPIs that we looked at. And this is an interesting chart. So you'll see a couple of times throughout this data, we've sort of looked at some correlations between flexibility and the impact on the work and employee experience. And you'll see from this that those that offered increased flexibility about when, where, and how work gets done did see a bigger uptick, I should say, across 5 out of the 6 KPIs compared to those that didn't. And you can see them just sort of ticking along here, the difference between productivity, innovation, empowerment. And interestingly, the only one that saw a more negative impact, whilst possibly not massive, it's still an important point to make, was collaboration. And, perhaps that's just not a surprise. We have all not only struggled with needing to be in our houses and work in our pajamas and homeschool and all those things we mentioned earlier, but we've also had to learn how to collaborate with our teams remotely for the first time. So probably not a surprise on that one. So I guess where does that leave us? And, we've got here, let's go hybrid. We said earlier, we can't go back to normal. So perhaps where we need to go is this time where we start thinking about hybrid approaches that we might adopt in the future. So we need to balance, I guess, the need for in-person collaboration. And of course, we still feel that there's so much need for in-person collaboration with the opportunities that, or I guess the learnings that we've had over the last year. So the increased empowerment we saw, and we'll talk more about authentic leadership later. There's some of the benefits and things that we can take forward. I suppose where we are then is questioning what the new employee experience is going to look like for us and for you.
So before we get there, let's have a look to see exactly what changed 2020 versus employee experience. So it's not all good news, and we asked organisations which employee experience touchpoints were most impacted by remote working, and we heard that learning and development, recruitment, unexpectedly onboarding and performance management saw the biggest challenges. So where we're trying to attract, educate, and then manage the performance of people, these things that normally have lots of face-to-face interactivity, there's no question that they're going to be impacted by remote working. And then we asked people if they could improve just one aspect of the hire to retire journey to drive a much better employee experience, what would it be? and right on top came learning and development, followed by performance management and onboarding. Those together were the top 3 priorities. So the events of 2020 saw discussions about racial injustice around the dinner table, across social media, in the news and in the boardroom too. Of course, corporate D&I agendas are much broader than just race, but it's encouraging to see that in 2020, the things that happened led to much more conversations being opened up around D&I. That's a real positive. 25% of respondents said that was, a real silver lining to the impact that 2020 had on their organisations.
And then, oh, sorry, Liz, go on.
No, go ahead.
And 1 in 5 are saying that D&I had the most positive impact on their employee experiences. And the context of this question is us asking, which initiatives that you ran in 2020 did, I guess, most positively impact the employee experience and the people that work for you. And 1 in 5 is not a bad stat, saying that this had the biggest positive impact. And obviously we're reaping the benefits here of more forward-looking companies and companies that are reacting to the change, the seismic change that's around us. The downside, and I hate to say disappointing, but I think it was really, is that 20. Do you want to flick slides, Liz? 26%, and that's 26% are saying that D&I is one of their top 3 focus areas for 2021. Now, that's not to say that there's not a larger percentage of organisations that have D&I as one of their major priorities for employee experience for this year and beyond. I think we would have liked to have seen that as a bigger number. In the context of everything that has happened, there clearly is still work to do here, because for us, it very much should sit at the very top end of our agenda. So another big theme, this one is, and always was, I guess, inevitable. Liz and I are presenting to you right now in the UK, as you can probably hear, from another national lockdown. I think this is number 3, so probably not a surprise to see mental health and well-being. And we don't ask this question enough, especially when you look at the stat just to come. So 80% of respondents are saying that the events of 2020 negatively impacted employee mental health. That is literally massive. There is a catch here, and that's that 61%, and I will say only 61%, because there's obviously a gap there, have taken further steps to support employee mental health and well-being. We clearly have a gap, and I think the majority of organisations, of course, there with the 60%, they are adapting, and many are under financial pressures. Of course, that's understandable. But where is that leaving their people? And I think supporting mental health and well-being into 2021, and we'll talk more about that later, is going to be equally, if not more, important as we continue.
So the big question around mental health and well-being is, are we always on, and where do the boundaries lie? We work in our living rooms, children jump onto our calls, we don't commute, we're uncertain about the future, we homeschool. Work life and home life has never been so blurred. There's increased flexibility, but like we've said, we need to make sure that there are boundaries, we need to find the right balance. When we asked our respondents what had the most positive impact on employee experience in 2020, it was definitely mental health and wellbeing initiatives. And really interestingly, this is another one of the cuts of data that we looked at to find the correlation. And we found that organisations who invested more in mental health and wellbeing saw that remote working had more of a positive impact on all of those 6 performance measures that we looked at across remote working. So it's really clear that organisations that invested more in mental health really reaped the benefits of that. And, the question is, what next for mental health as it becomes much more wide. So when we look at what organisations did, 52% offered counselling or increased support. We had 41% of organisations provided extra training and awareness campaigns. We had new wellbeing programmes launched, and 20% better promoted their existing employee assistance programmes, and the list goes on and on. So we're certain that investing in employee mental health and wellbeing is a trend that's here to stay. And it could be a key differentiating factor in the organisational performance and the war for talent as we go forward. The next key theme that came up is leaders and line management. And we think that the upticks in productivity have been driven in part by leaders showing up differently. We've seen much less PowerPoint presentations and many more authentic and open communication styles. We've all been in this together. But of course, leading authentically and with empathy doesn't come naturally to everyone. Supporting our leaders develop a more open and real style that's underpinned by active listening, coaching, and developing others will be fundamental to the revolution our workplaces need to go through as we find out about the new hybrid models of working that we'll move towards.
And then listening. Now, I think we were pretty pleased that this came up as a theme, especially considering everything that's happened in 2020. How could we, as employers, as organisations, large and small, not listen to our people about what they've needed as part of their experience? And so, we were pleased to see 2/3 of organisations are using listening channels in 2020, and that's in the context of specifically us exploring whether organisations were using listening to try and find out how employee experiences needs and expectations, I guess, had changed within 2020. Only 10% of organisations are using real-time data to make people-led decisions. And by real-time data, we mean having a constant evolving conversation with your people, understanding their thoughts, feelings and sentiment, and using that insight to make current live decisions. Now, this is the sort of super interesting bit. We actually found that the impact of remote working was more positive in organisations using employee insight across all of the 6 KPIs that we looked at compared to those that didn't. And you can see some pretty big differences on some of these, especially, to call out something like productivity as well. Silver linings, and this is an interesting one. Do we want to use the phrase silver linings for last year? There were definitely some positives. I know they can be hard to sort of think about when we're again in a national lockdown, but we wanted to ask whether 2020 gave any silver linings for your organisation. And you can see some of the big themes that came up, and it is definitely a strange idea, but they were in the workplace, and organisations reported more flexibility, more empathy in leadership, and then also more agility were experienced, I think, by many organisations. And there's some big differences as well, completely unsurprisingly, between 2020 priorities and 2021 priorities. So what you can see on the left are the top 3 priorities of when we did the Roundel research last year, and we asked people, what are you most focused on for 2020? Compared to on the right, what we most focus on for 2021. So now, the 3 things on the right, there's not surprises here. Mental health and wellbeing being by far the top focus area. That's super positive. Values is another interesting one. And then, of course, remote working and flexibility. So there's a couple of differences. When I say a couple of differences, it's fundamentally changed. What will be interesting for us to see is the 3 priorities on the left. When will these come back into our playbook, I guess? When will they become our focus areas?
So the last topic that we asked our respondents about was the future of work. Where do we go now? The future of work is ours to shape, as we talked about right at the beginning of the presentation. So we asked our respondents what they thought the top 3 long-term trends were. And again, probably not too surprising here, we got increased flexibility as the top one. So flexibility is definitely here to stay. Mental health and wellbeing and remote working. And then the 4th one was virtual collaboration. So all of those long-term trends really reflect what we've experienced in 2020 and show how 2020 has really turned our work experience on its head and going to have some really long-lasting implications for the world of work.
So let's try and make it good. I mean, what a way to close, really, for everything that we've presented. And of course, that's a total in a nutshell situation. Please do download the report. We'll be going live quite late tonight, I should imagine. But from tomorrow, we're officially live. Have a good read, and please do share around and ask any questions. I think There's a couple of important things to say just to close out. Like we said in the beginning, we do have this once in a lifetime opportunity to look at employee experience, to look at the world of work and think about how we can fundamentally transform it. We don't want to move backwards. We only want to think about how we can learn from what we've experienced and take that forward in a positive way. The one big learning for us probably is around listening. And if you didn't last year, and even if you did this year, taking the moment, taking time out now, early on in 2021, to listen to your people, to understand the changing needs and expectations of their experience, so that you can continue to build strategies that transform for now whilst we're still in remote working, but then into the probable more hybrid models that we'll see in the future. So thank you. Hopefully that was helpful.
Helpful, fantastic. It's the first time I've seen that. So much to take in for my poor little brain at 21 hours in. Really, I think I love the sigh when you mentioned silver linings, Hattie. that was one of the good moments. But the mental health initiatives, 41%. Became more productive, and they reap the benefits. Now, that, unless I've misheard that feels like a real watershed moment stat. Caring about your people and their health, their mental health at home and work, your business performs better. That's incredibly powerful. I've obviously been working around this for a long time. So have you. These are the stats that get the investment. It's people, sadly, they don't always care about their people, but they listen to numbers and bottom line. So for me, that's a huge number out in that report there that we should be banging the drum around. So for those who haven't got it yet, there is actual business impact for looking after your people. So, and sorry if I sound a bit preachy, it's probably 21 hours, but and also we've heard empathy so much today, and so I've probably never heard it so many times in a day. But then again, I haven't done a day-long event. But again, I think that kind of comes back to at your last point of changing the world of work and trying to rebuild it. Not overcomplicating it, but having core human philosophies. Have empathy, be curious, be kind, look after your people. But what were the points that really stood out for you two when you put this report together? And obviously, people need to download it and read it because there's a lot in there. But I'd love to know what stood out for you.
For me, it was Hattie, it was the correlations between the investments that organisations were making and the positive impact that had across the performance measures that we looked at. We were so blown away to see what we know instinctively to be true, backed up by data. So the mental health, listening, the increased flexibility is really coming through on the bottom line. And it's, that is great in terms of what you can do with employee experience, the power of it.
I completely agree. The correlations were genuinely fascinating. Matt, also what you said about mental health, I'm glad to see that. I guess two things. The one is that organizations have reaped the rewards, and those who've invested more in mental health last year, but to see it also as the top focus area for 2021 shows that organizations in our industry is recognizing that. And look, even if you sort of take away the detail of the stats, we have experienced, all of us globally, for the first time in our generation, a completely, I suppose, a consistent experience for all of us. We've all been in this together, and that's been the same in the workplace. So all of a sudden, workplace cultures understand that we've got to group together. We have to, like you say, take away some of the politics, the bureaucracy, the policies, frankly, have been pointless. This has been a ripping it up and starting again situation. And so that gives us the opportunity to do just that, to rip it up, to start again. And that might sound dramatic, but I think what could be more impactful right now than going out to your people and saying, we want to build this new experience, which is inevitably going to be different from now on, with you. So I guess mental health and listening were the two big things that were good to see.
I'm just coming back to the empathy piece again, and why it's suddenly there. And I'm just thinking, and maybe I'm still on the uptake, but leaders suddenly had to become very accessible and very visible very quickly, and or it was business critical. They actually had no choice. So leaders who were always at an arm's length, they might have put an email out once a year or something. Suddenly you had a Zoom call or a town hall into their bedroom. And maybe that the empathy piece is actually being driven from the top, because they're all of a sudden having more personal interactions with the people they're working with and going, actually, I need to be have more empathy as a leader. My team needs to have more empathy, because we're nothing without our people. So I'm just wondering whether that's actually coming from the top of the business, saying we need to be better at understanding the people we work with, because of that accessibility piece.
I think that's what we've seen, and Liz will probably add to this, but in the clients we've been working with in the last year, I don't think we've ever, certainly in the years that I've been doing this, talked so much about top down. Our profession is all about creating these bottom up movements and energy, and actually there was already empathy amongst employees. What we were maybe lacking, and certainly not everywhere, but what we were lacking a little bit, like you said, was accessibility to leadership. But I think last year I should say, we've realized that people are people. And we've all been in the same situation. It doesn't matter whether you're employee, leadership level, line manager. It has been irrelevant. We've experienced this together. And I think that complete removing of boundaries and more, concentrated hierarchies has helped open things up. And we realize that we are all just in our pajama bottoms, and we have, we're wearing nice tops and dreadful joggers, and that's fine. And that is fine.
I was considering running a little poll, like a lottery, on guessing what I'm wearing beneath the screen. But I just thought that would sound entirely inappropriate. But I didn't, and I won't. So look, if there's anything else you'd like to add, please do so now. Otherwise, I just thank you so much.
No, thanks, Matt, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you again for this. This information gives people potential, empowers people to go try and get investment in certain elements to improve their business. So I thank you on behalf of those people, and we'll no doubt talk over the next 12 to 24 hours to get this report out there. So take care, have a good night's sleep, and speak to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Matt. Good luck. See you later.